signing of Nelson Cruz doesn't necessarily mean that we're done. I don't know if that necessarily means that Ha Seong Kim will for sure be gone, but it kind of does raise a question because Matt Carpenter could play first base. I don't know if Nelson Cruz can. I don't think he'll see the field, and Matt Carpenter might not play great first base either. But there's certainly questions that are being raised about Ha Seong Kim. You just saw Trevor Story. He got Tommy John. Now the Red Sox, depends on where Kike plays, but they don't necessarily, on their depth chart right now, they don't necessarily have a second baseman or a shortstop. They need one. I don't know what the pitcher's looking like. Tanner Hook is a guy that everyone keeps talking about, but question I have is, wouldn't that just raise a little more questions? He only pitched like 60, 70 innings last year. And I don't know if he's ever been extended into a starter role. I don't know if that's the Red Sox plan either. Please, someone let me know. I don't know too much about him. And then you got the Marlins, who just traded their defensive first shortstop, and are saying that Joey Wendell is probably going in as the opening day shortstop. How much of that do you believe? He's only played 89 games there as a shortstop. In his whole career, he's only played 89 games as a shortstop. Jazz Chisholm, though, is a natural shortstop. Gene Segura is a second baseman, so that kind of fills out the middle, but what about third base? Kim also plays third base. There's so much you could do there, but Kim's best position is shortstop. I don't trust me, I don't want to trade Ha Seong Kim. I like Ha Seong Kim. I wouldn't say he's like a fan favorite of mine. I do like him. Everyone loves him. I completely understand. He's pretty cool. But we need pitching, man. I mean, this is like fantasy football. Let's say tight end, right? Travis Kelce's the number one, always. But let's say in the later rounds, you picked up some guy, right? You picked up some guy that broke out. Suddenly he's a top 5 tight end. Now you can afford to trade one of Travis Kelce or this top 5 tight end to fill out a weakness in your lineup. We got like 16 shortstops. We got 3 for sure starting pitchers. I like him, man. I really don't want to see him go. But in terms of realizing, look, this is if the right offer comes, this is not for like if this is for Pablo Lopez, man, I'm a little hesitant because do I like Pablo Lopez? Yeah, I like him, but I kind of feel like it's a wash. I actually feel like Kim might provide a little more value, but for the right package, I do think it is worth trading Ha Seong Kim.
See, I'm not against what you're saying, Isaac. I definitely get what you're saying. I don't want to trade Ha Seong Kim. And I don't know, maybe it's just the bias. There's just the fan bias, right? I like Ha Seong Kim. I feel like Ha Seong Kim brings the energy anytime Ha Seong Kim comes up to the plate. And Chase isn't here right now, but you know damn well that Chase would have brought up Franmil Reyes if we're talking about Ha Seong Kim in terms of trading the heart of the team, right? Chase always brings that up. It's tough to look at and go, it's tough, at least the deals that are being brought up. If you trade Kim, it might backfire in some of these deals. So I don't think that the Padres are in a spot where yes, they have a bunch of shortstops and stuff, but I think right now when you look at this team, we were just talking about it. You bring in Nelson Cruz, right? You have Matt Carpenter potentially play first base. But do you want Matt Carpenter to play first base? Do you not want to use Nelson Cruz as almost a depth piece? Because all of a sudden, if you trade Ha Seong Kim, right? One, you don't have a corner outfielder to start when Fernando's not there. So you're really banking on Fernando to be able to make that position change. And then 2, you have Matt Carpenter at first base and Nelson Cruz as your full-time DH. I do not think that the Padres are all in on trading Kim. I really don't. And I feel like there's a lot of fans that believe that them signing Cruz was almost like the writing on the wall of oh, Kim's going to get traded. I really don't think that's what it means. However, I've also heard the argument of hey, Kim just had a huge increase in his numbers last year. He had a monster season. You could easily trade him. And I can see that side of it. But I don't think you're in a spot where you're forced to trade him. I don't think you're in a spot where it's oh, there's too many numbers. You know what you want? You want to have depth. you want to have Nelson Cruz or Matt Carpenter on your bench every day. Because what does that mean? That means that you have options every single day. And guess what, guys? There's going to be injuries. There's going to be injuries every single season, right? So if you do have one of those guys on your bench, all of a sudden you have a couple options on your bench that can come in. So I really think that it's one of those things where it's like you're looking and you go, okay, do you need to trade Ha Seong Kim? No, you don't need to trade Ha Seong Kim. Could you? Yeah, if you get a really, really good offer. But I don't know what's available right now where I'm thinking of like a Kim trade. And it's like Pablo Lopez is like the best trade I can think of where it's like a Ha Seong Kim based trade. That's the best guy I feel like I've heard get brought up in like kind of like a reasonable trade rumor. And even that, Isaac, you brought up, you said you kind of feel like it's a wash, and maybe you look back and you go, well, Kim even took another step in that third year, and Pablo Lopez only has, he has the same amount of control as Kim, and all of a sudden it looks a lot worse. And I believe Kim's like a year younger, I want to say, or maybe they're the same age. It's pretty close. I mean, Pablo Lopez is a pitcher, so you kind of also age kind of more quickly in baseball as a pitcher than a shortstop. So I think it's really hard, and I think like if it's at the point where the Padres are going to trade Ha Seong Kim and it's going to be like a dicey trade where it's like it's really even, why would you do that? I don't really think it makes that much sense to do that. Now, if there's a guy that the Padres are like, we think this guy's a future ace, we think he's going to be this, we think he's going to be able to, pitch 150 innings and have a sub-4 ERA, and he's going to have a future on this team, then sure, I could get behind that. But unless they're really feeling that confident, I don't think that they're in a position where they feel like they have to move Ha Seong Kim, which that's an amazing spot to be in because you have a guy at shortstop that plays middle infield that can play third, short, and second, like you brought up, that could potentially get moved, but you don't have to move him because he's still your starting second baseman on opening day. He's still your starting second baseman if Fernando comes back. Cronenworth can still play first base if he comes, if he's back, whatever it is. So I don't think you have to trade Kim. I really don't. Would I be surprised if they trade Kim? No. But I don't want to see some trade where it's like, I don't know. We already know what this guy looks like, and we don't know what Kim's potential is. We talk about it every time we bring him. At least I talk about it every time we bring Ha Seong Kim up. Third year for the players coming out of the KBO is their biggest leap. Do you really want to trade Ha Seong Kim and then have him make that jump and then be stuck with a guy that you're like, oh, we already knew what he was. Like he's already kind of plateaued. Because that could end up burning you. And if you trade one of those guys that's like the heartbeat of your team, and you look back and you go, oh, this could be really, really bad. Now, I don't think it's going to be anything. It's like, even if they trade Kim and it doesn't work out, like I still think the Padres are going to be fine, but you can still get burned on a given trade and it can still hurt. It could still be a trade that you look back and you, oh, that one stings. We traded Kim for this guy. And that's why I'm a little bit nervous in terms of trading him, where you can have Ha Seong Kim hit 7th or 8th and he can still put up a 4.5 WAR. That's ridiculous. That's like, and he doesn't have to produce that much at the plate because of how good he is defensively. So I'm a little bit hesitant for the idea of trading him, even though I do see like the potential of how it could make sense. But I don't know. I don't think you're like for it, Isaac, but I just feel like, and I don't think like I'm against it, but I do feel like we're on like different levels,
I'm leaning more for it. You're leaning more against it. Like, I don't think we have to trade him. I really don't think we have to trade him. If you're going into opening day with him as your starting second baseman, you're looking really good. He's projected for over a 100 WRC plus. So, I mean, he's projected to be an above average major league hitter this year. I think it's a little harder. I don't know how much stock I take right now into like the heartbeat of your team, heart and soul type thing. Because, like, look, in April, right? Hosmer's balling out. Hosmer's going crazy. They talk to Manny. Manny says, I will be very mad if they trade Eric Hosmer. July comes, or August. Hosmer gets traded. You got Juan Soto. You think he cares anymore? He probably doesn't. They beat the Dodgers. You know how bad Manny wanted to beat the Dodgers? He doesn't care. Like, all that goes away. Nobody cares in like 2 weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks, whatever happens. Like, and if Franmil Reyes, okay, if people really took stock into how much of a lovable player, the bombs that he used to hit, Everybody loves him. If people really took stock into that of Franmil Reyes, exactly, Manny is the heart and soul. If people really took stock of that in Franmil Reyes, considering he's off the worst year of his career, he's probably cheap as hell right now. And I have not seen a damn peep of anyone wanting to have him. Nobody cares about, like, that stuff goes away. It's true. The heart and souls of this team are Manny, Fernando, Juan, and Xander Bogaerts. Those are your heart and souls, right? Jake Cronenworth has turned into
Joe Musgrove.
And Joe Musgrove, exactly. You have those guys already. Like, those guys are set in stone. I was telling Matt, let's say you do trade Ha Seong Kim, and the guy you get is your third, your fourth starter, and he posts like a 3.3, a 3.5 ERA. Are you? That sounds pretty good, right? I mean, it doesn't sound awful. And, you know, you brought up a good point. Depth doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have the depth. The type of depth that Ha Seong Kim provides you. In terms of, let's say Xander Bogaerts gets hurt. Well, I guess Fernando's a shortstop. Let's say Manny gets hurt. Ha Seong Kim played third base quite a few times in place of Manny. He's good over there. I mean, he's good everywhere. Wherever he plays, he's pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't, trust me. Like, I like Ha Seong Kim, man. I'm not gonna say like, oh, we need to trade him. We need to trade him, because clearly the clubhouse loves him. Ownership probably likes him. The fans, you guys love him. And it makes all the sense of the world, man. I mean, the strides he made from year 1 to year 2, I really enjoyed seeing that. I mean, his swing was still really long, but he was finally able to catch up on some fastballs. The ones that were super high velocity, he still struggled, but year 3 is normally the year that you start seeing these players from the KBO, the Japan League, whatever it is, start making their stride. So realistically, year 3 could be a huge year for Ha Seong Kim, where he posts, you know, depends on what site you go off based off your WAR, but Baseball Reference 5 WAR, Fangraphs I believe is like a 3.5, something like that. Still really good. That could go up to a 4. That could go up to a 5. He's able to go up to even like a 7. Say he has like a 760 OPS, 15 home runs, something like that. You know, that gets him up to probably like a 4 WAR. And luckily, I mean, maybe not luckily, depends on your view, but luckily we're probably not the only team that sees that. So am I like, you know, super for trading Ha Seong Kim? No, I like Ha Seong Kim, man. I think he's a cool player. He's fun to watch. Guys like him. Everybody gets super hyped for him. I think he's fun. Like, he's a fun player. But if it could help you, because let's say one of you, Darvish, Blake Snell, or Joe Musgrove goes down for an extended period of time. Your number 3 is now Nick Martinez. Your number 4 is probably Jay Groom, and your number 5 is Johnny Bullpen again. I'm not for that.
No, and I get that, and I get that's why the case, and that's why I'm kind of torn, because like, okay, Joseph comments this right here. Heard Kim and Rosario to Boston for Tanner Hoke and a few others. Like, I don't like that idea. Like, I really don't like that idea. However, you kind of change it up and you talk about Pablo Lopez, and I'm like, okay, I like that idea more. And then all of a sudden you talk about a package for, you know, a potential ace guy where maybe it's Kim and a lot more, but Kim's like maybe the MLB player in that. Okay, then I might like that even more. So it really just depends on the deal, in my opinion. Like, and I don't want him to get traded. And Isaac, I've told you this. I bought my girlfriend. Well, I didn't buy her it yet because of this, literally because of this reason. But I told her, I said, we're gonna wait till the season starts. But if the season starts, I'm buying you a Ha Seong Kim jersey. Unless he gets traded, then I'll buy you someone else's jersey. But like, that's her favorite player. You know what I mean? Like that, like, and so it's that kind of side of it to things where it's like, I don't know what you got. Like, you really have to be like, get a good offer. And I see some people in here. I see Gil, and I'm surprised because I feel like Gil. I feel like you would have been like I don't know. For some reason, I feel like Gil would have been a Ha Seong Kim homer. Gil's saying like, all right, you could trade Ha Seong Kim. I don't really mind, which is interesting to me. But like, I see other people like Richard over here saying like, hey, like I'm all in on keeping Kim. Like, and that's where it's at. That's why it's a tough decision, because it's like, on one hand, like, you don't want to lose the guy, but there might be a really, really good offer. And that's why it's so hard to tell when there's rumors about guys. because you don't know who the player is that you're getting. And then if you get the guy and then that guy sucks, it makes it like 10 times worse. And I think that's why the Franmil Reyes trade hurts. Like, even though like he didn't really produce, it's like he still was producing in San Diego, and then you didn't really get much for him, you know? So it's hard.
Yeah, and that actually Ha Seong Kim's situation right now, where everyone's like, oh, you know, he's coming off his best season. Let's trade him. Let's try and get something out of him. It reminds me so much of Jake Cronenworth last offseason, where you kind of saw people saying, hey, maybe we should look into trading Jake Cronenworth because he's just coming off his best season. There's value. He's got years of control, and he's a pretty damn good player. I don't know if it's that much different. I don't know if they're that much different. I think Jake Cronenworth just came around at a better time. But trust me, I don't want to trade anyone. But in terms of what we need right now, I'm not going to I might go Sunday, bro. But yeah, that let me tell you, the Padres lineup's definitely better than the Coachella lineup. I might go Sunday. I like Frank Ocean. I like Ray Shremmerd. I really want to see those two. Saturday, I'm not a big fan. Friday, I like Metro Boomin. I like Bad Bunny. I want to go both those days, but I'm not going Saturday. Anyway, back to Ha Seong Kim. I don't know the pitcher that I would want in a trade for Kim. I don't really know if I would want Pablo Lopez. I think he's good. Like, don't get me wrong. I really think he's good. And I think what the league sees, and I think what everyone's kind of seeing right now, is that he does have the potential to be even better than he already is right now. But I feel like it's a wash. Like, I feel like, yeah, you know, it helps out the Marlins. It helps us out in terms of, like, you know, what we really need, some depth, but no girlfriend to take this year. But yeah, man. We might have to make an episode on just Ha Seong Kim. Because it's honestly a very interesting thing. Like, he's a fan favorite. He's fun to watch. He brings in a lot of revenue from Korea. And on top of all that, he's a freaking good player. He's one of the best defensive shortstops in a long time that at least that I've seen. I mean, he's consistently making plays. The team loves him. There is so much good surrounding Ha Seong Kim. Unfortunately, for those who love him, one of those good things about him is his trade value right now. So on top of everything else, he has a really good trade value. Whether that's helping the Padres on the field or acquiring another player, that remains to be seen. I'd like to see him in the opening day lineup, but if he's not in the opening day lineup, I understand.
All right, two things I have to add before we move on to Manny Machado. One, the disrespect to Freddie Galvis. Real nice, Isaac. Real nice. Man. But two, I always see this. Why don't they trade players, you know, like why don't they trade guys at like their high end? Like, why don't they move them off their peak year? Because it's like impossible to tell when a guy's peak year is when he's played 2 years in the league. Like, I keep seeing that argument. The Padres need to be more aggressive and like trade guys when they're like coming off a hot season. No, I don't know when they're coming off a hot season. And we've talked about this so much. And I remember you and Chase were talking about this with me one time about why Manny's so special is because Manny's put together like so many seasons of really, really good baseball. And that's something that's super hard. So I see this like, oh, you gotta sell high. You don't know if you're selling high. And you also don't know if you're buying high on the same guy, like a Pablo Lopez, for instance. And that's why I think this is such an interesting conversation, because like it's completely going to depend, you know, what the trade is. And we're not going to know. Say that they do trade Ha Seong Kim for Pablo Lopez. We don't know what that's going to look like. We can try to speculate. And we might be like, look, we think it's going to be pretty solid. We think it's going to be pretty even. And you know what might happen? Ha Seong Kim might put up might produce way more WAR, might be a way better player, and Pablo Lopez might suck. Pablo Lopez might get Tommy John. Shoot, Kim could get hurt. Kim could be horrible on, on the Marlins. And then Pablo Lopez could turn into the guy he kind of thought he was. So it's so hard to really figure out what that's going to look like. And that's why I think it's so interesting when you bring up trades and stuff like that.